The morning started like any other Tuesday at First National Bank. Customers lined up at the counter. Tellers processed deposits and withdrawals with rehearsed smiles. Managers sat in their glass offices, shuffling papers and pretending to be busy. The air conditioning hummed quietly. Everything looked perfect, professional, efficient. Then the door opened. A man walked in wearing a faded hoodie, ripped at the sleeves, stained near the pocket. The fabric looked like it had seen better days, maybe 5 years ago. Old jeans with frayed hems, worn sneakers that had lost their color. He moved slowly toward the counter, hands tucked deep in his pockets. His hair was messy, his face unshaven. He looked like he'd just rolled out of bed. The security guard's eyes locked onto him immediately. His hand moved closer to his radio, watching, tracking every step. Across the lobby, the branch manager, Richard Chen, looked up from his computer. His eyes narrowed. His expression changed in an instant. Not curiosity, not concern, disgust. He nudged his assistant sitting beside him and whispered something behind his hand. They both smiled. That knowing smile. The kind that said, "Here we go again." The man reached the counter. He waited patiently while the teller finished with another customer. When she finally turned to him, she barely made eye contact. "Can I help you?" she said flatly. "I need to speak with someone about an account," he said quietly. His voice was calm, polite. The teller glanced at his clothes, then back at her screen. "Account number." "I don't have it with me." She sighed audibly, like he'd just ruined her entire day. "Name, Keanu Reeves." She typed without reacting. Common name, she thought. Probably hundreds of them in the system. Some guy who thinks he's funny. "There's a wait for account services. You'll need to sit over there." She gestured vaguely toward the waiting area. Keanu nodded. "How long?" "However long it takes. No apology, no estimate, no courtesy." He walked to the waiting area and sat down in one of the hard plastic chairs. He didn't pull out his phone, didn't scroll through social media, just sat there, watching. Across the lobby, Richard Chen was still staring at him. He leaned back in his expensive leather chair, arms crossed over his chest. His Rolex caught the light. He muttered something to his colleague. They both laughed. "Look at this guy," Richard said quietly. "Probably here to open a basic checking account with $50 in a dream." His assistant snickered. "Or cash a check from his mom." More laughter. What they didn't know, what nobody in that building knew, was this. The man in the torn hoodie didn't just have an account at that bank. He owned it. 47% of the shares. The second largest stakeholder in the entire financial institution. He hadn't visited in person for over 3 years. Until today. And everything they thought they knew about him. Everything they assumed. It was about to cost them everything. What would you do if people treated you like you were nobody, when you actually owned everything around them? Keanu sat there quietly, watching every interaction, listening to every word, taking in every detail. The way staff spoke to well-dressed customers versus others. The way Richard checked his Rolex twice in 5 minutes. The way a young woman in work clothes was told to come back during business hours. Even though it was 30 a.m., she had been standing there for 20 minutes. But a man in a tailored suit who walked in after her. He was seen immediately, escorted to a private office, offered coffee, treated like royalty. Keanu's face didn't change, but his mind was recording everything. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't one bad employee having a rough day. This was culture, systematic, deliberate, rotten. And he was about to find out just how deep the rot went. Because sometimes, the only way to see the truth is to become invisible. And Keanu Reeves had just disappeared, right in front of everyone. Most people don't know this about Keanu Reeves. He's intensely private about his investments. No press releases announcing new ventures. No public appearances at ribbon-cutting ceremonies. No showing up at board meetings in expensive suits with an entourage. He operates in silence. Always has. Years ago, after the massive success of several films, he started putting his money into businesses that actually mattered. Not just for profit, for purpose. Real estate developments that included affordable housing, green energy projects in underserved communities, and financial institutions, banks. First National wasn't a random choice. It wasn't about diversifying his portfolio or chasing returns. It was personal. This bank had a history, 50 years ago. It was founded by a group of community leaders who wanted to serve ordinary people. Immigrants starting over. Small business owners chasing dreams. Families trying to build something stable. The bank's original mission was simple: treat every customer with dignity, regardless of their balance. That's what drew Keanu in. That's why he invested. He believed in what it stood for. But over the last 2 years, something had changed. New executives were brought in. People with impressive RA-sums and aggressive strategies. Revenue targets were increased quarter after quarter. Branches started closing in lower-income neighborhoods. Underperforming locations, they called them. Fee structures became more complicated, more punitive. Overdraft charges doubled. Minimum balance requirements tripled. The marketing still talked about serving the community. But the policies told a different story. Keanu received quarterly reports. Numbers on paper. Profit margins looked great. Shareholder value was up. Everything seemed fine. Until he started reading between the lines. Customer complaints were mentioned in footnotes. Buried in appendices. Employee turnover rates were climbing. Exit interview data was mysteriously incomplete. Community investment programs were being restructured, which meant canceled. Keanu started asking questions. The responses were polished, professional, empty. Market conditions require adaptation. We're optimizing for efficiency. Short-term pain for long-term gain. Corporate speak. Translation: we're squeezing people for profit. So Keanu did what most billionaire investors would never consider. He didn't send a consultant team. He didn't schedule a formal audit with months of advance notice. He didn't arrange a carefully orchestrated visit with prepared presentations. He put on his oldest clothes, grabbed his keys, and walked in unannounced to see the truth. The real truth, not the version prepared for shareholders. Have you ever tested people by hiding who you really are? Now, sitting in that uncomfortable plastic chair, Keanu watched the operation unfold. He saw everything. A young couple approached the loan desk. They looked nervous, hopeful. The woman clutched a folder of paperwork against her chest. They'd clearly prepared for this moment. The loan officer barely glanced at their documents. He typed something into his computer. 30 seconds. That's all it took. Your credit score is too low, he said without looking up. We can't help you. The woman's face fell. But we've been customers here for 6 years, she said softly. We have our payroll direct deposit here. Our savings. Doesn't matter. 2 words. Cold. Final. No empathy in his voice. No alternatives offered. No let me see what else we can do. Just rejection. The couple stood there for a moment, lost. Then they quietly gathered their papers and left, heads down, dreams deferred. Meanwhile, Richard Chen was on his phone in his glass office, door wide open, laughing loudly about something, talking about his weekend golf trip to Pebble Beach. His voice carried across the entire lobby. He wasn't working. He was performing, showing everyone how successful he was, how important, how untouchable. No one seemed to care that customers could hear every word. That employees were scrambling to help people while he relaxed. That the person who'd been waiting longest, Keanu, still hadn't been helped. Keanu's jaw tightened slightly. Just slightly. This wasn't just inefficiency. This wasn't poor training or a bad day. This was cruelty, dressed up as professionalism, packaged as policy, sold as just business. And it was happening every single day, to people who had no power to fight back, no voice to complain, no choice but to accept it, or leave. 15 minutes had passed. Keanu was still sitting, still waiting, still watching, and with every passing moment, he was seeing more clearly what he'd come to find. The bank he'd invested in, the bank he'd believed in, didn't exist anymore. It had been replaced by something else, something hollow, something broken, and he was about to fix it, or burn it down trying. 30 minutes had passed. Keanu was still sitting in the same plastic chair, watching, waiting, invisible. Richard Chen finally stood up from his desk. He stretched his arms above his head, rolled his shoulders, checked his phone for the 100th time, then casually strolled toward the break room. He walked right past Keanu, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. Didn't even glance down, didn't acknowledge his existence, just kept walking, like Keanu was part of the furniture. Near the teller stations, 2 employees were whispering. Not quietly enough. That guy's still here, one said, nodding toward Keanu. Weird, right? What's he even waiting for? I don't know. Probably homeless or something. Should we call security? Nah, he's not bothering anyone. Just sitting there. They laughed. Small, nervous, but still laughter. Keanu heard every word. His expression didn't change. He simply continued observing, taking mental notes. The door chimed. A woman in her late 60s entered the bank. She had a cane in her right hand, moved slowly, carefully, each step deliberate. She approached the counter and waited patiently for a teller to finish. When one finally looked up, the woman smiled. "Hello. I'd like some help closing an account, please." The teller, young, maybe mid-20s, didn't smile back. "You need an appointment for that." The woman's smile faded slightly. "Oh, I called yesterday. The person I spoke with said I could just come in." "Well, they were wrong." Blunt, dismissive. No apology for the miscommunication. The elderly woman looked confused. Her hand trembled slightly on the cane. I don't understand. Can I make an appointment now then?" "Not here. You have to call the customer service line." "But I'm already here." The teller sighed. Actually sighed. Like this woman was a burden, an inconvenience. "Mom, I can't help you without an appointment. Those are the rules." "But I was told." "I don't know what you were told, but you need to call." The woman's eyes glistened. She wasn't crying, not yet, but she was close. Her hands shook more visibly now. "Okay," she whispered. "I'm sorry to bother you." She turned slowly, began making her way back to the door, each step slower than the last. No one helped her. No one offered to make a call on her behalf. No one even held the door. She struggled with it for several seconds before finally pushing through. Gone. Dismissed. Forgotten. Keanu had seen enough. He stood, calm, unhurried. But something in his posture had changed. He walked directly to the teller, who just turned away the elderly woman. "Excuse me." She looked up, annoyed already. Yes. That woman needed help. The teller's face hardened. She didn't have an appointment. She's a customer. She shouldn't need one for basic service. "Sir, we have policies. Policies that treat elderly customers like burdens." Her eyes narrowed. "Sir, if you're not here for banking services, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Keanu looked at her for a long moment, saying nothing, just looking. She shifted uncomfortably. "I'm here for banking services," he said finally. "Then please return to the waiting area." "I've been waiting for 35 minutes. Someone will help you when they're available. Your manager walked past me twice. He's not busy." The teller glanced toward Richard's office. "Mr. Chen is in an important meeting. He's on his phone." She didn't have a response to that. Keanu didn't wait for one. He walked directly to Richard Chen's office. The door was open. Richard was back at his desk now, feet propped up, scrolling through Instagram. Keanu knocked on the glass door frame. Richard looked up. Irritation flashed across his face. He didn't stand, didn't straighten up, just waved vaguely.
"Yeah. Not how can I help you? Not, please come in. Just, yeah."
Like Keanu was interrupting something important. "I need to discuss my account," Keanu said. Richard barely glanced at him. "Name? Keanu Reeves. Account number? I don't have it memorized." Richard sighed heavily. The same dismissive sigh the teller had used. "Then I can't help you. Come back when you have your information." Keanu didn't move. "I've been waiting for 35 minutes. And," Richard's tone was sharp now, "you're busy." "Exactly. We're all busy here. You've been on your phone." The air in the room changed. Richard slowly took his feet off the desk, sat up, his eyes locked onto Keanu. "Excuse me. I said you've been on your phone. Not working, not helping customers. Just scrolling." Richard stood now, all 6 feet of him, trying to use his height to intimidate. "I don't know who you think you are, but you need to leave. Now." His voice was loud enough that people in the lobby turned to look. The security guard started walking over. Keanu remained perfectly still, perfectly calm. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," he said quietly. "The only misunderstanding is you thinking you can walk into my branch and talk to me like that." "Your branch. That's right. My branch. I run this place." Keanu reached slowly into his jacket pocket. Richard tensed. The security guard's hand went to his belt, but Keanu didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out a business card, simple, elegant. He placed it carefully on Richard's desk. Richard glanced at it, then froze, completely froze. His face went from red to white in seconds. The card read Keanu Reeves, principal investor and board member, First National Bank. Richard's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. The security guard stopped mid-step. The entire lobby had gone silent. Everyone was watching now. "Have you ever seen someone's arrogance disappear in real time?" "I didn't." Richard stammered. "I know," Keanu said quietly. "You didn't know." His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "Mr. Reeves, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. Don't apologize to me." Keanu pointed toward the lobby. Toward the door the elderly woman had struggled through. Apologize to her. The woman you just turned away. Richard's face went even paler. Apologize to the couple your loan officer rejected without even looking at their application. Silence. Apologize to every single person who walked through these doors and was treated like they didn't matter. The other employees were frozen. Some looked terrified. Others looked confused. A few looked hopeful. Keanu turned toward the door. I'll be back in 1 hour, he said. I want every manager in this branch in the conference room. Mr. Reeves, please, if I could just... 1 hour. Keanu walked out, not rushed, not angry, just done. The lobby remained silent. Richard stood in his office. Alone, his career had just ended, and somewhere deep down he knew it. But what happened next? What Keanu was about to uncover? That would prove this wasn't just about one arrogant manager. This was about something much bigger, much darker. Keanu walked out of the bank, but he didn't leave. He sat in his car across the street, engine off, windows down slightly, just watching. He pulled out his phone and made a call. It rang once. It's me, Keanu said. I need a full audit of the West Side branch. Today. On the other end was Sarah Mitchell, his head of operations, a woman who'd spent 15 years in financial compliance. She didn't ask questions when Keanu called. She just acted. What are we looking for? She asked. Everything. Customer complaints, employee reports, internal communications, financial discrepancies, policy violations. How far back? 2 years.
Hey, pause. That's a lot of data.
I know. What did you find? Enough to know we need to look deeper. I'll have a team there in 20 minutes. Make it 10. And Sarah?
Yeah, come yourself. I need someone I trust. On my way.
Keanu hung up. He sat there watching the building through his windshield. Inside, the panic was already starting. He could see it. Employees were moving faster now, clustering in small groups. Whispering, Richard was on his phone, pacing in his office, probably calling his lawyer, or his union rep, or both. The other managers had gathered in the break room. Their body language said everything. Crossed arms, defensive postures. They knew something was coming. They just didn't know how bad it would be. 17 minutes later, a black sedan pulled up. Sarah Mitchell stepped out, mid-40s, sharp suit, carrying a leather briefcase and a laptop bag. She looked like she meant business. Because she did. She walked straight into the bank without announcing herself. Keanu watched her disappear inside. His phone buzzed 5 minutes later. A text from Sarah. You need to see this. Now, Keanu got out of his car, crossed the street, walked back into the bank. This time, people noticed him immediately. Eyes followed him everywhere. Whispers multiplied. The receptionist who'd dismissed him earlier looked like she wanted to disappear. He walked past her without a word. Straight to the conference room. Sarah was already set up, laptop open, documents spread across the table in organized stacks. Her expression was grim. That bad? Keanu asked, closing the door. Worse. She turned her laptop screen toward him. I started with customer complaints. Basic search parameters. Last 18 months. She pulled up a spreadsheet. Keanu leaned in. The numbers made his stomach turn. Loan rejections are up 340%. Sarah said. Keanu's eyes narrowed. 340%? Yes. Why? Did lending standards change industry-wide? No. Just here. She clicked to another tab. I found an internal memo. Dated 14 months ago. From regional management. She pulled it up. Keanu read it slowly. The language was carefully worded, corporate, sanitized. But the meaning was clear. Focus resources on high-value client acquisition and retention. Streamline approval processes for accounts below minimum profitability thresholds. Translation. Keanu asked, though he already knew. Stop approving loans for poor people. Keanu's jaw clenched. It gets worse. Sarah continued. She opened another file. The bank has a fee waiver program. You approved it yourself 3 years ago. Remember? Of course. For customers facing genuine hardship, medical emergencies, job loss, unexpected crisis. Right? Well, it's been used exactly 4 times this year. Keanu looked up sharply. 4 times? Out of over 600 requests. That's impossible. The criteria aren't that strict. They're not rejecting people based on criteria. She pulled up an email chain. From Richard Chen to his management team. Dated 6 months ago. Subject line fee revenue optimization. Keanu read it. Each line made him angrier. Team. Noticed we're leaving significant revenue on the table with fee waivers. Moving forward, DO now offer waivers, unless specifically requested by corporate compliance. If customers ask, tell them they don't qualify. Most won't push back. This is an easy win for our quarterly numbers, RC. He told them to lie, Keanu said quietly. Systematiu stood, walked to the window, looked out at the lobby. Customers were being served. Tellers were smiling. Everything looked normal. But it was all a facade. Keep going, he said without turning around. Sarah hesitated. Keanu, there's more. And it's not just about fees and loans. He turned back. Show me. She opened another folder. 3 employees filed formal harassment complaints in the last year against Chon, Richard Chen, and 2 other senior managers. Keanu's expression darkened. What kind of harassment? Verbal abuse, inappropriate comments, 1 case of unwanted physical contact. What happened to the complaints? Sarah's face said it all. They were filed with HR, acknowledged, investigated internally, and all 3 employees were either transferred to different branches or terminated. The victims were punished. Yes. What about the managers? Nothing. No disciplinary action, no training, nothing. Keanu's hands formed fists. He forced them to relax. Names. I want the names of everyone involved. Sarah slid a document across the table, already compiled. Keanu picked it up, scanned the list. Richard Chen's name appeared multiple times. So did others. Regional manager, HR director, VP of branch operations. This wasn't just one bad apple. This was institutional rot. How many people knew about this? Keanu asked. At least a dozen in management. Maybe more. And no one said anything. One person did, junior HR assistant. She flagged the pattern. What happened to her? Resigned 4 months ago. Exit interview cited hostile work environment. Keanu closed his eyes, took a deep breath. I want everyone involved in this room in 20 minutes. They're going to resist. I don't care. Keanu, some of these people have been here for years. They have connections. Contracts? I said I don't care. He looked at Sarah directly. This bank was supposed to help people. Instead, it's exploiting them, hurting them, and the people in charge know it. He placed the document back on the table. 20 minutes. Every manager involved. If they refuse, security escorts them out immediately. Sarah nodded. What are you going to do? Give them a choice, which is, tell the truth and resign quietly, or lie and get fired publicly. She almost smiled. You know they're going to lie. I know. What would you do if you discovered the company you trusted was built on exploitation? Keanu walked to the door, stopped, turned back. Sarah, thank you. For getting here so fast. For finding all this. Just doing my job. No, you're doing what's right. There's a difference. He left the conference room, walked through the lobby. Employees scattered. No one made eye contact. They all knew now. The owner was here, and he was angry. 18 minutes later, the conference room began to fill. Richard Chen came first, pale, sweating, followed by 2 other branch managers. Then the regional director, a woman named Patricia Voss, 50-something, expensive jewelry, cold eyes. She sat down without greeting anyone. The tension was suffocating. Keanu stood at the head of the table, silent, letting them squirm. Sarah sat to his right, laptop ready, evidence loaded. Finally, Keanu spoke. I'm going to ask you one question, and I want the truth. He looked directly at Richard. Did you deliberately ignore company policies designed to help customers? Richard shifted in his seat. We were trying to improve profitability. Yes or no? Silence. Richard's throat worked. Yes. Keanu's gaze moved to Patricia. Did you know about the harassment complaints? I was briefed, but HR handles. Yes or no? Her jaw tightened. Yes. Did you take action? We conducted internal reviews. Take action. A pause. No. Keanu nodded slowly. You're all terminated. Effective immediately. The room exploded. You can't do that. Patricia Voss shot to her feet. Her face flushed red. We have contracts, employment agreements. You can't just... Section 12, Keanu said calmly. Gross misconduct, breach of fiduciary duty, willful violation of company policy. He looked at Sarah. She nodded. Legal reviewed the employment contracts this morning. The terminations are valid. This is insane. Richard stood now too. We were following directives from corporate. Show me the directive that told you to deny fee waivers to struggling families. Keanu said. Silence. Show me the policy that said to bury harassment complaints. More silence. You can't. Because those directives don't exist. Patricia's eyes narrowed. You're making a mistake. This branch is profitable because of us. This branch is profitable because you exploited vulnerable people. That's not. Stop. Keanu's voice cut through the room. Not loud, but absolute. I have the emails, the complaints, the data. All of it. He gestured to Sarah's laptop. You want to keep lying, we can do this in court. with subpoenas, depositions. Public record. Patricia's face went pale. Or you can accept the severance package being offered and leave quietly. What severance? One of the other managers asked. 2 weeks' pay. More than you deserve. That's nothing. It's more than the employees you fired for reporting harassment got. The fight drained from the room. Patricia grabbed her purse. You're going to regret this. No, I won't. She stormed toward the door, stopped, turned back. This bank will fall apart without us. You have no idea what you're doing. Keanu met her eyes. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm removing the cancer. Patricia left. The others followed. Richard was the last to stand. He looked broken, defeated. I have a family, he said quietly. A mortgage. Kids in college. You should have thought about that. Keanu said. Before you mocked customers for being poor. Before you created a culture where cruelty was rewarded. Richard's eyes glistened, but Keanu felt no sympathy. Security will escort you out. You have 10 minutes to collect personal items. Richard left without another word. The door closed. Keanu stood alone with Sarah. The silence was heavy. You okay? Sarah asked. Keanu didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, watched Richard and the others being escorted out. In front of everyone. In front of the customers they'd mistreated. The employees they'd bullied. I will be, he said finally. Sarah started gathering her documents. There's something else? Keanu turned. What? She pulled up a file marked coincidental. I found this in Richard's archived emails. It's encrypted, but I got through. She opened it. Keanu walked over, started reading. His expression didn't change, but his hands gripped the edge of the table. Knuckles white. When did this start? He asked quietly. 6 months ago. The document was a proposal. Detailed. Professional. A plan to sell the Westside branch. Not to another community bank. To a private equity firm, Titan Capital. A company known for one thing: profit extraction. They bought struggling businesses, cut staff by 60%, eliminated community programs, maximized short-term returns, then sold the hollowed-out corpse to the next buyer. This can't be real, Keanu said, but he knew it was. The proposal included financial projections, asset valuations, transition timelines, and a buyer's agreement, already signed, by Titan Capital's CEO, and by someone else, someone whose signature made Keanu's blood run cold. Marcus Hale, his co-investor, his partner, the man who owned 39% of the bank. Are you sure this is legitimate? Keanu asked. Sarah nodded. I cross-referenced the metadata, the signatures. Everything checks out. Does Marcus know I'm here? I don't think so. This was buried deep. Richard probably didn't even know you'd found it. Keanu pulled out his phone, stared at Marcus's contact. They'd been friends for years, had invested in 3 other ventures together. Keanu had trusted him completely. What are you going to do? Sarah asked. Keanu put the phone away. I need to talk to the employees first. Now. Yes, Sarah looked confused. Keanu, you just fired the entire management team. Shouldn't you? The employees are scared. They think they're next. Are they? No. But they don't know that. He headed for the door. Wait, Sarah said. What about Marcus? The sale. One thing at a time. But, Sarah. He stopped, turned back. If I don't address the people who actually make this place run, nothing else matters. The sale could go through anyway. Not if I stop it first. But I can't stop it alone. He opened the door. I need allies. And the employees deserve to know what almost happened to them. Because when you fight for what's right, you don't start at the top. You start with the people who've been hurt most. Keanu walked into the main lobby. Conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look. The fear was palpable. Tellers at their stations. Customer service representatives. The security guard. Even the janitor in the corner. All frozen. Waiting. Can everyone gather here for a moment? Keanu said. His voice was gentle now. Not the steel from the conference room. Slowly, people moved closer, reluctant. Terrified of what was coming, Keanu stood in the center of the lobby. No podium, no prepared speech. No corporate talking points. Just him and them. My name is Keanu Reeves, he began. I'm one of the principal investors in this bank. A few people gasped quietly. Most looked confused. I came here today because I heard things weren't right, and I wanted to see the truth for myself. He paused. Let that sink in. What I saw was worse than I imagined. Faces fell. People braced for the worst. But I'm not talking about you. Heads lifted. I'm talking about the people who were supposed to lead you. He gestured toward the now empty management offices. I saw customers treated with contempt. I saw policies designed to help people being deliberately ignored. A woman in the back started crying, quietly, trying to hide it. Keanu saw her. I saw employees being punished for doing the right thing, for speaking up, for trying to help. More tears, from different people now. I want you to know that ends today. Silence, complete silence. The managers who allowed this culture are gone. All of them, someone whispered. Oh my God. But I need your help now. A young man raised his hand, shaking slightly. Yes, Keanu said. Are we losing our jobs? The question hung in the air. Every eye on Keanu. No. Relief flooded the room. Shoulders dropped. People exhaled. One woman actually sobbed. But I need honesty from you. Keanu continued. I need to know what really happened here. Not the corporate version. Not the sanitized reports. The truth. He looked around the room. If you've seen something wrong, I need you to tell me. If you've been hurt, harassed, or retaliated against, I need to know. Another hand went up. Slowly. An older woman, maybe 50. Will we be punished if we talk? She asked. Her voice trembled. Absolutely not. I'm here to listen. And to fix what's broken. More hands started going up, one by one, then all at once. And the stories began to pour out. Stories of humiliation, of cruelty disguised as professionalism, of policies weaponized against the powerless. A young woman named Lisa spoke through tears. I reported my manager for touching me, for saying things that made me uncomfortable. Her voice broke, and they transferred me to a branch 40 minutes away. Made me the problem. Keanu's expression hardened. What's your manager's name? Richard Chen. Of course it was. Lisa, I'm sorry, Keanu said. That should never have happened, and it's going to be made right. He turned to Sarah, add it to the file. Full investigation. I want everything documented. Sarah nodded, already typing. More people spoke, more pain, more anger, more truth. By the time the last person finished, Keanu had filled several pages with notes, and his resolve had turned to stone. This wasn't just about fixing one branch anymore. This was about burning down a system that had failed everyone it was supposed to serve, and rebuilding it from the ground up. The next morning arrived cold and gray. Keanu was already at the bank by 7. He'd barely slept. Spent most of the night reviewing documents, financial records, email chains, the sale proposal to Titan Capital. Every page made him angrier. At 8:15, a black town car pulled up outside. Marcus Hale stepped out, 60 years old. Perfectly tailored charcoal suit. Italian leather shoes that probably cost more than most people's rent. Silver hair styled immaculately. He moved with the confidence of a man who'd never been told no. A man who believed the world bent to his will. He walked into the bank like he owned it. Which, technically, he almost did. Employees noticed him immediately. Whispers spread. Marcus didn't acknowledge anyone, just headed straight for the conference room. He knew Keanu would be there. He knocked once on the door, didn't wait for an answer, just walked in. Keanu was sitting at the head of the table, documents spread out in front of him, coffee growing cold in a paper cup. Keanu, Marcus smiled. Didn't expect to see you here, clearly. Marcus sat down without being invited, crossed his legs, adjusted his cufflinks. I heard you made some executive decisions yesterday. I did. Fired half the management team. All of them, actually. Marcus's smile tightened. Without consulting me. I don't need to consult you on terminating employees for gross misconduct. Gross misconduct. Marcus chuckled. That's a strong phrase. It's an accurate one. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Studied Keanu carefully. You're upset, I understand. But let's not be dramatic. Dramatic. These were good managers, Keanu. They hit their targets. Increased profitability quarter over quarter. Be exploiting customers. Be running a business. The words hung in the air. Keanu put down his pen. Tell me about the sale. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. What sale? The proposal to sell this branch to Titan Capital. Oh, that. Marcus waved his hand dismissively. That was just exploratory. Nothing serious. You signed a buyer's agreement. A preliminary agreement. Non-binding. You didn't tell me? Marcus's smile finally faded. Because it wasn't finalized. Why would I bother you with every potential deal that crosses my desk? This isn't just any deal, Marcus. This is our bank. Our bank. Marcus emphasized the word. Exactly. And I own 39%. I have a right to explore options that maximize value. For whom? For us, for the shareholders. What about the customers? The employees? The community? Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. Keanu, you're a movie star, not a banker. You don't understand how this works. Keanu's jaw tightened. Explain it to me then. Marcus stood, walked to the window, looked out at the street. This branch is underperforming. Has been for 2 years. Because you installed managers who rejected customers instead of serving them. We installed managers who made tough but necessary decisions, like denying fee waivers to struggling families, like not hemorrhaging money on accounts that aren't profitable. People aren't accounts. Marcus turned back. In banking. Yes, they are. The coldness in his voice was startling. Keanu had known Marcus for 8 years, had dinner at his house, met his family, invested millions alongside him, but he'd never really known him. Not until this moment. Teton Capital would have paid 3 times what this branch is worth. Marcus continued. They would have gutted it. They would have restructured it. They would have fired 70 people and closed the only bank in a 5-mile radius. Marcus shrugged. Unfortunate. But that's market reality. That's greed. Marcus's eyes hardened. Don't lecture me about greed. You live in a mansion, drive expensive cars. You've made millions playing pretend for cameras, and I use that money to help people. They playing hero. Marcus sneered. This isn't a movie, Keanu. This is real business. Real money. Real lives. Lives that aren't our responsibility. Keanu stood slowly. Then maybe we have different definitions of responsibility. Marcus grabbed his coat from the chair. Are you trying to force me out? I'm trying to stop you from selling people's livelihoods for a payout. You can't stop me. I have rights. Board representation. Had. Marcus froze. What? Keanu slid a folder across the table. Marcus opened it. His face went from confident to pale in seconds. Inside were emails. Not just about the West Side branch, about the entire bank. A proposal to sell everything, all 43 branches, to Titan Capital, for a complete acquisition. You were selling the whole thing, Keanu said quietly. This is, where did you get this? Does it matter? This is a confidential negotiation. Behind the board's back, behind my back. Marcus's hands trembled slightly. It was preliminary. You were getting a $40 million payout. Silence. While everyone else would lose their investments. While thousands would lose their jobs. Marcus's throat worked. You don't understand the full picture. I understand perfectly. Keanu walked around the table, stood face to face with Marcus. You saw an opportunity to cash out. And you didn't care who it hurt. Business isn't personal, this is personal. We built this together. Or I thought we did. Marcus's mask finally cracked. You've always been naive, Keanu. Too idealistic. Too soft. And you've always been willing to profit from other people's suffering. That's not fair, isn't it? Keanu stepped back. I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Tomorrow morning. You can't? I can. Majority shareholder privilege. Check the bylaws. Marcus's face flushed red. This is a mistake. You're destroying value. I'm protecting people. The board will side with me. Will they? Keanu gestured to the folder. When they see you were planning to sell everything without telling them. When they see you were getting a personal payout while they got nothing. Marcus grabbed the folder, clutched it to his chest. This is corporate sabotage. This is accountability. I'll fight you. In court. In the media. Do what you need to do. Keanu walked to the door, opened it. Security was standing outside, waiting. Mr. Hale is leaving. Keanu said calmly. Marcus's eyes widened. You're having me escorted out. This is private property. I'm the majority shareholder, and you're no longer welcome here. You can't do this. I just did. Security stepped forward, professional calm. Marcus looked between them and Keanu. This isn't over. Yes, Keanu said quietly. It is. Marcus was let out. Still clutching the folder, still threatening, still believing he had power. But he didn't. Not anymore. Sarah appeared in the hallway. That went well, she said dryly. Keanu exhaled slowly. His hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from anger, from the weight of what he'd just done. Board meeting tomorrow, he said. And Sarah?
Yeah.
Make sure every board member gets a copy of those emails. Tonight. She smiled slightly. Already done? Keanu almost laughed. What would I do without you? Probably something reckless and heroic. Probably. He walked back into the conference room, sat down, put his head in his hands. The fight wasn't over. Marcus would retaliate. The board meeting would be brutal. But for the first time in days, Keanu felt something shift. He was winning. Not just the battle, the war. 24 hours later, emergency board meeting. The boardroom was on the top floor of First National's headquarters building, downtown. 32nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Expensive modern art on the walls. A conference table that could seat 20. Made from a single piece of walnut. Cost more than most people earned in a year. Keanu arrived 15 minutes early. He wanted to see their faces as they walked in, wanted to gauge their reactions. The board members arrived one by one. Diane Foster came first, early 60s, former CEO of a retail empire, sharp eyes. She nodded at Keanu, said nothing. Robert Chen next, no relation to Richard, venture capitalist, younger than the others, ambitious. He looked nervous. Then came James Wellington, old money, inherited wealth, usually voted with Marcus. He avoided eye contact with Keanu entirely. Patricia Voss arrived next. Wait, Keanu's eyes narrowed. What is she doing here? He asked Sarah quietly. She's on the advisory board. Non-voting member. I fired her. From branch management, not from advisory duties. Keanu's jaw clenched. Patricia sat as far from him as possible. Finally, Marcus walked in, different suit. Same arrogance. But there was something else now. Desperation. He'd spent the last 24 hours calling in favors, making promises, trying to salvage his position. Everyone took their seats. The tension was suffocating. Diane, as the longest-serving board member, called the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming on short notice. She began. Keanu called this meeting. I believe he has information the board needs to see. All eyes turned to Keanu. He stood, walked to the presentation screen. Sarah handed him a remote. I'm going to show you something, Keanu said. And then I'm going to ask you to vote. He clicked. The first slide appeared. An email from Marcus to Titan Capital's CEO, dated 4 months ago. Subject: preliminary terms for full acquisition of First National Bank. The room went silent. Robert leaned forward. Full acquisition. Keanu clicked to the next slide. Financial projections, asset valuations, timeline for closing, all prepared by Marcus. All without board knowledge. Marcus has been negotiating to sell this entire bank, Keanu said, without telling any of you. That's not true, Marcus started. These are your emails, Keanu said calmly. Your signature, your private account. He clicked again. Another email appeared. This one showed Marcus's personal compensation, $40 million, while other board members would receive nothing beyond their current equity value, which would be significantly diluted in the acquisition. Diane's face hardened. Marcus, is this accurate? It's taken out of context. Is the number accurate? Marcus shifted. The compensation package was part of preliminary negotiations. 40 million, Diane repeated. While the rest of us would lose our positions and watch our equity get restructured. We would all profit from the sale. Not like you would. Robert stood. This is fraud. Breach of fiduciary duty. Marcus's voice rose. These were exploratory discussions. You signed documents, Keanu said. He clicked to the next slide. A buyer's agreement, signed by both parties, not preliminary, binding, pending board approval. The room erupted. You went around us. How long has this been happening? Did you really think we wouldn't find out? Marcus's face flushed red. Everyone shut up. The room fell silent. He pointed at Keanu. This is a witch hunt. Keanu shows up after years of being an absentee investor and suddenly he's playing savior. I'm not playing anything, Keanu said quietly.
You're destroying this bank.
Firing profitable managers. Blocking lucrative deals. Lucrative for you. Marcus slammed his hand on the table.
I have built this institution. Ground it.
Made it profitable? By exploiting customers, Keanu said. By burying harassment complaints. By selling out everyone in this room. He looked around the table. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm showing you proof. He clicked through more slides. Customer complaints, employee testimonies, financial data showing how profitability was achieved through predatory fees, internal memos directing staff to reject vulnerable customers, harassment reports that were ignored, all of it. Every piece of evidence Sarah had compiled. By the time he finished, the room was in shock. Diane looked devastated. Robert looked furious. Even James Wellington, Marcus's usual ally, looked disgusted. I moved to remove Marcus Hale from the board, Diane said. Her voice shook slightly. For breach of fiduciary duty, for negotiating unauthorized deals, for personal enrichment at the expense of this institution. Seconded, Robert said immediately. Marcus stood. You can't do this. Al, in favor? Diane asked. Every hand went up, except Marcus's. Even Patricia raised her hand. Marcus looked around the room in disbelief. This is illegal. I'll sue. Every single one of you. Security, Diane said. The doors opened, 2 security officers entered. Professional, calm. "Mr. Hale, you need to leave," one of them said. Marcus grabbed his briefcase. "You're making the biggest mistake of your lives." "No," Keanu said quietly. "We're correcting one." Marcus was escorted out, still yelling, still threatening lawyers and lawsuits, but powerless. The door closed behind him. Silence filled the room. Finally, Diane spoke. "What now?" Keanu sat down. "Now we rebuild this bank the right way. The Titan deal is dead. Completely. What about the West Side branch? The other locations with similar problems? We fix them." Robert spoke up. "That's going to cost money." "A lot of money. I know. It'll impact short-term profitability. I know that too. Shareholders won't be happy." Keanu looked at him directly. "Then they can sell their shares. Because I'm not interested in profits built on suffering." Diane smiled, just slightly. "Motion to appoint Keanu Reeves as acting chairman." "Seconded," Robert said. "All in favor." Every hand went up, this time including Keanu's. He was no longer just an investor. He was in charge. And the real work was just beginning.